Tell your friends. Tell your friends about Hooks and Ladders, but also about songstudio.ca. You can get all kinds of information about songwriting, tips, and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, like, follow, and subscribe. That's what we need. That's what you need.
Here's another peek at what we did at SongStudio Online last August. Hope you enjoy.
Danny Michel and I have known each other since we met in Sudbury. I don't know if Danny remembers that, but it was actually on stage, I think, or sound checking in Sudbury for a song, a Bluebird North, Bluebird North show, which is a bunch of songwriters sitting in a row. And I'd never heard Danny before, and I was so jealous of Danny. I really was. No, I really, really was. And I probably never told you that, but he was so fucking good and made a connection with the audience. And it was so beautiful. The songs were great. His on-stage vibe was so cool. And I was both envious and happy to be there because it was great to hear him so close up. And we became friends after that because we did some more tours together. And that feeling of envy never really went away. But and the feeling of admiration as well. So Danny has been in bands, but he mostly performs solo. I would say that's fair to say, and is much beloved and has a nice solid fan base of people who think that he's like really, really talented, and I'm really glad that he's part of SongStudio. So there you go. Now, Dan, there's lots of stuff I don't know about you, like what was it that got you into music in the first place? Like why, how young were you and how did you start playing music?
I feel like I'm lucky in the sense that I always knew I wanted to play music my whole life, like right from like grade school. And I feel when I say I'm lucky, I mean, I have lots of friends of mine who were like in their 30s and after university and stuff and still going, I don't know what I want to do. And I always remember thinking that must be a heavy feeling to like not know what you want to do. That must be pretty scary. And so I always felt like, well, at least I skipped that. I just knew. And I have my own, that comes with its own challenges. But I just remember being like, okay, I'll tell you the earliest memories I have of music were like were actually more like technical in the sense that I liked. My dad had the old reel-to-reel machines, right. And I used to love. I would record. He had a microphone with it, and I would record my voice onto it, and then I would play the tape at different speeds, right, and hear my voice slow and fast, and then I'd turn the tape backwards and hear my voice backwards. And I thought that was amazing, and I would always be in trouble with him because I'd be taking his machine and accidentally erasing his Beethoven things. and I remember having a lot of fun with that and being very fascinated with sound and recording, which I guess leads to like, I mean, I had a studio in the basement in high school. Like I pretended in my mind that I had a recording studio and I put, egg cartons on the walls and I had one microphone and I would make little records and stuff down there. It was just terrible music, I guess, at the time. But and it just, And then when I was 13, I went to the CNE and saw Bowie. And I was 13 and I remember sitting there looking around thinking, I want to be a part of this. And it wasn't like I wanted to be the singer or Bowie. I was just like, this whole music thing was so exciting. I'm like, this is what I want to be a part of. And and I sold my soul to the devil that night.
Wow. Maybe you're saying that partially facetiously, but you're saying it partially for real. Like sold my soul to the devil might be overstating it in a sense, and in another way, not at all, right?
No, yeah. I remember like leaving that concert thinking I'm going to be in the music industry.
Right.
That's done.
Right.
Like whether that means I work in a recording studio or own a studio, or I'm a singer, or I'm the bass player in a band. I don't know what that is, but I'm a lighting guy. That's what I'm doing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that big time. And we spoke with Craig Northey yesterday, and he talked a similar thing, you know, with the tape recorders. When his family got the first cassette recorder, he would record back and forth between them and overdub and experiment and so forth. So this connection to technology and creating something new was big for him, as it sounds like it is for you too.
Yeah. Also, it's funny when I'm talking about this, it's reminding me of all kinds of other stories. There was a guy who lived down the road. There were these, I was like in high school, and there were these guys who lived down the road who were probably about 25 years old, you know, and I was like 16, and they had like the Fostex 4-track cassette machine, and they had like the first drum machine, and they were really ahead of their time. My friend Tom and Ron, they were really ahead of their time, and they were like recording really interesting music. And I used to go over to their house, and after school, I couldn't wait to go over, and I would just sit there, and they would be, the room would always be really smelly when I went in. I remember, what's that smell? and they would be, I would just sit there and be like, wow. And those guys inspired me so much. Yeah.
And this is all in the Kitchener-Waterloo area?
Yeah.
And you've maintained that connection to that. Like, have you ever lived in Toronto?
No.
You never felt the need to move?
No. Yeah. When I remember being in like in my 20s, everyone's like, well, you got to go to Toronto to make this work. And I was like, it's just an hour drive. I don't know why. And in those days, it was an hour drive. Yeah. Now it's anywhere between 1 and 5.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, I remember talking with Alistair about this fairly recently, and him saying, well, if I'm gonna get there by 6 p.m., I've got to leave at 3. And I was like, oh, come on, no way. And he was like, yeah, no, really. So, because Alistair is in the town of Wellesley, which is near Kitchener-Waterloo and near Stratford. Yeah. So well, that's interesting though that you never felt the need to move there. Again, talking to Craig earlier, it's not the whole interview, by the way, with you won't be, well, Craig said this and Craig said that, but he did go to Los Angeles, and so he went right into the belly of the beast to co-write with people and so forth. You never felt the need to do that?
No, I don't know. I've always been stubbornly just like really independent and did it always my own way, and I still do. And I don't know if that's been good or bad. I'm sure it has been in both ways, but yeah, I've always kind of enjoyed doing things differently than others. You know, I just thought if everyone told me this is the way you have to do it, I thought I don't know if there's some type of like defiant rebellion in me that I'm just like, no, I'm not doing it that way then. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like whenever we've talked about well, and stuff like this, it seems to me that you just do what you want to do, which is different from being defiant. It's not like, fuck you, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
It's more like, well, no, I just want to do it this way.
Yeah. And
I think it served you big time. I think it's something that people admire in performers and in creators of music, that sort of, following your own muse, knowing what it is you want to do and what you want to say, even if you don't know it in the moment of, when it first starts, but having a sense of direction. I think people like that about you specifically, but I think they like it about people that they admire.
It also can be a lack of direction, and the sense that I don't want to waste everyone's time, right? Like, to me, going in a studio for me makes no sense, because that's a place where I want to experiment for days, and I can't afford to do that in a studio, right? So, I mean, like, I'm recording a song. I've been recording a song for the last month, and I've re-recorded it from scratch till the end, all the instruments 4 times now, because I'm like, wrong key. I can't believe I recorded this in the wrong key. And then I'm like, it's too fast. It's too fast. And then I'm like, okay, if you're going to record it again, record it in 2 different 3 keys so that you can do, and like, I'm at it again. And I don't mind doing that. I enjoy it, but to me, to go in the studio, and it would cost way too much money to, in the days when bands would go in the studio and just start writing and creating, that's like, that's
long gone. And my tendency, I suspect this wouldn't be yours, but my tendency is if I've spent money on it, then I'm going to go with it. And
Right.
I think that's the enemy of art,
Yeah, well, nothing's worse than going, oh, I think the song's like a little bit too slow, but we spent the whole day on it, and I spent like $1,500, so this is what it is. And it's like, yeah, that's not
good
the right answer.
Yeah. So you've had your own recording set up like right from the beginning, really.
From high school, yeah.
And you were writing at the same time. You weren't like, when you first started, were you imitating other people? Were you doing David Bowie songs, or were you writing right away?
Oh yeah, I was like subconsciously imitating people. I think everybody probably does that a bit when they start out. You just kind of, you want to sound like the person you like, and you kind of, I was singing way out of my range, doing everything, that I was, it took me a long time to find out, oh, this is what I'm best at. This is where my voice sounds best. This is the songs, the style of music I play best,
Right.
Yeah, I think, if you know what I mean. What if you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, you got to find, they call it finding your artistic voice, I guess, as a songwriter, not just.
Or it finds you.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. And so it's mostly been a solo proposition, though. Like when you make records, you play everything. I mean, I know you do that these days.
Sometimes it depends. I mean, yeah, in my band, like I play with the same guys, but they all know they're not going to be on the record.
Right.
I mean, but sometimes they are, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, like it depends. Like the other day, I hired Peter Von Alten, the drummer who was in Starling. Yeah. I just called Peter and I'm like, I just heard this. I had this tune and I'm like, I hear Peter on this. I hear it because he played on my very first record and it was kind of reminded me of a song off that. So Peter just played on that for me. So I'm open to anything, but I enjoy I think I do it mostly on my own because, like I said, I just experiment and redo it over and over, and so much that I think, yeah. Like, for instance, I had my buddy Rob Carley play all these horns on this song that I recorded that I'm doing again and again. I'm like, I don't know how to tell him now that I'm like, I need you to do it again, but slower.
Yeah, because with horns, obviously it's not MIDI, so it's not like you're gonna.
Yeah, no, and he did like a huge horn section, the big thing, and I'm like, but I'm just gonna hire him to do it again.
Right. Well, that's beautiful. It's beautiful that you can.
But that's my fault for not getting it all right the first time. I find songwriting, I find it harder and harder as I get older, and it's like, to me, it's like going hunting. You like, not that I'm a hunter, but the idea that like you get all the good gear and you get up at 4:30 and you go sit in a tree and nothing comes, right?
Right.
Like you can't, it's not up to you sometimes.
You know that book, Songwriters on Songwriting by Paul Zolo?
I do not.
It's been around for decades, like in various, he just keeps adding interviews to it, and there's a second edition, and and the interviews get updated and so forth. And it's really with everybody you can think of, Keith Richards and Bob Dylan and Paul Simon and Joni Mitchell and Sheryl Crow and just a long list of people. And if you read all the interviews in one go, not that you read it's a big, thick, heavy book. I recommend it highly to all of our participants, by the way. But one of the things you'll notice is there are common threads that occur throughout the interviews. And one of them is that's, the unconscious, the idea of songs, just, your metaphor is hunting. Keith Richards' metaphor is fishing.
Yes.
There it is. Alistair went to get it. Songwriters on Songwriting by Paul Zolo. It's really terrific. Brian's getting it down as well. Yeah, nice. So Bill Demain, by the way, who has been a mentor here at SongStudio a few times, he's written a couple of books like that as well, collections of interviews, and they're really good. And he interviewed different people than Paul Zolo, in fact. Anyway, the common thread, though, is this unconscious, where the songs come from. I think Paul Simon refers to it as an orchard, and you're grabbing at fruit, and you're trying not to take the low-hanging stuff, the obvious stuff.
That's good.
But it's all, this idea that you just, some days you just got to wait for it, and some days it's not going to happen, but you got to be ready.
Yeah. So, I mean, for 10, 15, 20 years, I used to say that if a song isn't working for me immediately, or like within like a few hours of the day, it's gone. It's like, I think, throw it away. I'd had this thing where like, don't keep working on things over and over, because I felt that there was some like deeper problem. Like if it's not working, there's a reason. And I find that like when magic hits, it hits, and it's like you can't write fast enough, when it's like, I think some of my best songs came out really quickly. Yeah. But I think that now that I'm older, I think that I'm wrong about that, because here I am working on this song over and over again. And I don't know if, I think that when I was younger, I was just so bullheaded and arrogant that I just probably thought I'd write something and go, this is awesome. Do record, done. This is awesome. And I would just and now I listen back to that and go, it's not that awesome. It's cool, but it's not awesome. And now I feel like I'm being too hard on myself, because I'm like, everything I'm writing, I'm like, nope, this is not good enough. It's not good enough. And so,
thanks for taking a glimpse with us inside the SongStudio workshop from last August. Stay tuned for more.